Hello and welcome to the Frontrunner Football Podcast. It's the second edition in the last week of July as we get ready for what should be a bumper August with, of course, the ABSA Premiership set to resume. There's the Glad Africa Championship that'll also be on the go. And, of course, the Nedbank Cup will also come to a head. But before we get to all of that, we're going to discuss what's happening at the moment in the new cycle. And to help me do that, I have John T. Mark, Veli Limnyandu, and Mazola Molefe joining me as per usual on the podcast. And a big thanks to you too for tuning in and sticking with us as we break down what's happening in the news at the moment. So the big story, one of them that we're going to start with, involves TTM now being dragged in front of FIFA again. Remember that, again, okay? This time, though, by Vladislav Heric, who says he hasn't been paid in full by the team. He was their coach before they kind of unceremoniously got rid of him. And so he's saying, hey, guys, I want my money. FIFA, sort TTM out to sort me out. Have I got it right, Mazola? Is that the basic gist? What are the clubs saying?
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it, Kamza. So we spoke to the coach. And he told us that he's not been paid in the last. He's been paid once in the last 7 months. He was put on special leave before lockdown, and obviously subsequent to that, special leave turned into non-employment. It would appear. So he's gone. He didn't even go via the PSL dispute resolution chamber because, as you would know, if you're an international coach or an international player, you know, you can skip the whole process of doing it locally and go straight to the football world governing body, which is what the coach claims to have done. And look, we know that FIFA can be quite brutal. They can, when they want to show their wrath. We've seen it with Amazulu in the past, where another player, an international player, also had not been paid in 2014, and then Amazulu thought it was done and dusted, forgotten all about. Then FIFA came back, hit them with a points deduction. 6 points gone 2 seasons ago, I think it was. 2 seasons ago. And they had, it's a miracle that season Amazulu actually survived relegation because they were on the back foot. So TTM already, people want to see how they're going to do next season. With all the changes, obviously having bought the status of Bidvest, and I think they are getting off on the wrong foot, because this, if Masala Mulaudzi does not nip this in the bud and try to agree to a settlement with the coach as soon as possible, he could be faced with a situation where sometime next season he gets hit with a points deduction, and that hurts. That hurts, especially if you are the new boys on the block, so to speak. So let's see how it unfolds. I think the coach will definitely. I mean, you can imagine 6 months without a paycheck. Being put on special leave and all of that.
What is special leave? Because I'm looking at the results, and the last 5 before the break, he won 3 out of those 5 matches. What was the bone of contention here from the club? Why was he on special leave? What had he done to be put under that status?
Yeah, you see, that's the thing that comes into the fore here as well, because the coach can argue exactly that prior to his suspension, he'd actually been getting the desired results. And special leave, as you know, it could vary, between the club. Obviously anticipating the possible sale and thinking we're going to need a coach maybe that is a lot more experienced, a coach that can work with the new players that we're going to have on board, or simply maybe Heric and the management just did not get along. We've seen it recently happen with Makepisi at Amazulu, a coach who had done very well at Polokwane City, then got the job at Amazulu. I'm talking about Coach Joseph Vukozic, and he was placed on special leave. And from what we've heard, it sounds like they've also kind of sacked him to some degree, because we know Ayanda Dlamini was put in charge alongside Monique Josephs just prior to the lockdown. So it would be interesting. I think TTM will be getting off on the wrong foot here, because if you get hit with a 6 points deduction, it hits you hard, because it's tough. It's tough to get 6 points, especially, you know, depending on how they would have started. Look at Amazulu. They spent the rest of the season trying to play catch up and recover. It's a miracle that they survived relegation that season.
I mean,
yeah, but the issue of first division, in the first division, most of the time you see this recycling of coaches, you know, and there's this band of specialist coaches who are coaching in that division, and Vladislav Herish forms part of those coaches. You can mention even the coach at Swallows now, Brendan Trotter, you know, and look, this is by no way of saying you are degrading them, but they've found a way of what does one need if you want to get promoted. Because previously, I think Herish has promoted Chippa United from the first division, and obviously this was also even previously also Roger Skakane has also played that role as well. But with Herish, he's one of those coaches. I remember even when he joined TTM, I think he was coming from a team. Where was he coming from? I think he was coming from a team in KZN when he joined TTM. So and this thing of him and TTM. Remember at some stage he went. I think he went to bury. I think it was his mother that he went to bury, and then he came back after that. But there had been stories even during that time about how him and TTM were not hitting it, and also there had been these stories of a lot of interference at TTM, and remember even their CEO now, Silo came in as a coach, you know. I mean,
what a promotion!
What a promotion! You know, you take him away from the field, straight to the office, you know. As the CEO, you don't even say, okay, technical director. So that you move away from the field, you know.
Right.
I mean, Silo is still young. Harper's ambitions of coaching and all those things, you know. So it was not really a surprise, because if you also remember Herish's arrival at TTM, I think it also coincided with the arrival of Masbusane Zongo at TTM as well, you know. So I'm just concerned with TTM being reported to FIFA at a time when they have just paid a huge sum of money, which after Atosa Nyondo had taken them there, and it was also said that they went to PSL to borrow money so that they could pay, you know, the FIFA fine. You know what I mean? So it's not painting a good picture for a team which is now going to compete in the elite division in the country, and I just hope that they've got a plan of getting out of these things. And also, this is something FIFA treats very seriously. You know, this thing of not paying coaches, they take it very seriously. You know, this was one of the reasons why Zimbabwe couldn't take part in the World Cup qualifiers for 2018, because one of their former coaches took them to FIFA for not being paid, and this was the situation. So TTM, they must take this thing very seriously.
John T, I mean, if you're Joseph Molongwane and Opa Manyisa, literally just as the ink dries on your contracts, you're hearing these kinds of stories, you must be thinking, my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? When, you know, you're just signing to a team, and your team makes headlines for signing you, but soon after is in the papers for the wrong reasons of non-payment.
I think that I'm sure they've got good managers, and I'm sure their contracts are watertight. But it would concern me a little bit going into a side like that when there's so much smoke around them. It also concerns me in the sense that they're the newest ABSA Premiership kids on the block, if you like, and they have taken over from a side that ostensibly was quite well run, albeit that they haven't covered themselves in glory in the way they've dissolved. So it worries me a bit that they're coming in like this with all these allegations surrounding them. It doesn't really bode well for the future in terms of them presenting a very professional front. Even this, the former coach becoming the CEO. I mean, it's, maybe he's a very good CEO, but it doesn't sound right on some level in terms of professionalism and in terms of how businesses should be run. And that concerns me a little bit if they're going to present a professional front once they take their place in the ABSA Premiership for the 2020-21 season. I would hope that they would have their ducks in a row. And as I think someone mentioned, if there is a 6-point deduction or a point deduction, it will certainly not be a very good way for them to start the season. And that as I'm sure they will be, as all new sides in the top flight are kind of candidates for relegation or one of the favourites. And it certainly won't help them if they have a massive points deduction at the start. So yeah, it's concerning. It's concerning all round that all these allegations are surrounding them for sure. And I hope that they can, they clearly do seem to need to get their house in order a bit before they start in the top flight.
Yeah, no, for sure. Mazola, I mean, looking at the two players that have joined, obviously game time will probably be the stock standard response you get out of them as to why they moved on. They want to get an opportunity to play. But what do you make of the moves besides that want going to join a team like TTM? If you're Opa Manyisa, if you're Joseph Molengwane, what are you saying about where you're at in your career?
Look, first of all, very interesting. Two previously high earners at Mamelodi Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs, respectively. So it's interesting that TTM have said they don't have the money to afford Coach Gavin Hunt and some of the vets players. Right. But then the first two major signings that they made that they make are the two players who were previously on big salaries at their previous clubs. I mean, I would assume Opa and Tite have taken some sort of salary cuts. I wouldn't think even for a second that they would be earning the same amount of money that they were making at their old clubs.
Right.
And I must be honest, I have some concerns. While I do think they are good players, I have injury concerns. I know that when they are both fit, the two of them, good players, incredible players that can, especially Tite. Tite can play as a right back. We've seen that. He can play as a right winger. He can play as a number 10. He can even play as a 6 because he's got also some defensive abilities as well. But we know that Tite had been advised medically at his previous club to perhaps consider early retirement. But he's since done an interview with us where he told us that he's raring to go. He's fully fit. He's recovered from the injury and he wants to play. And obviously that has come through with the fact that he's signed a 2-year contract with TTM. Opa, not as injury prone, but we know that he did get injured last year in October. I think it was the Shell Helix Cup in October. I think it was around that time.
Sure, yeah.
But when he played for Mamelodi Sundowns in the Shell Helix Cup against Chiefs at FNB Stadium, and he got hurt, and he done his Achilles, and he was out for pretty much the rest of the season. He seems to have shaken that off now, and we know what Opa can do. My only concern is the injury proneness, if there's such a word, but fully fit, great, top class players. But those are the concerns, and wondering just how much I would have loved to be a fly on the wall when they were signing those contracts, just to peek and see the numbers there. Just to see the number. Just to see the numbers there. But let's see. But for what it's worth, two good first signings for TTM, all things considered.
Right. Well, let's hope that they can add value to the side, and that we haven't seen the best of them for good. As we look at another transfer that's happened this time, Velile, we were thinking that this man was going to be donning the black and white of Orlando Pirates, but then Siyanda deciding to take on a new adventure in Israel with Hapoel Tel Aviv. Them unveiling him as their latest signing, and some people will say there's a benefit in the player going overseas for our national team, the levels of professionalism and the challenge. But at the same time, I kind of feel like it's a bit sad to lose a player like him again, to a league. I mean, when he went to Rostov in Russia, he was still young. Now you would have thought he would have, been part of a title challenging side maybe for the next season, but not to be.
Look, there's no doubt about Sia's quality. If you look just after leaving Kaizer Chiefs, even though you can't say he really left Kaizer Chiefs for footballing reasons, I think maybe there were even more reasons for him because he wanted to play, In fact, you can't say he was not playing. It was footballing reasons that made him lose because he was just not playing, But I think when you look at his situation, as soon as he left Kaizer Chiefs, he went to Maritzburg United. He was the defender of the season in the whole PSL.
Right.
The following season, it tells about the quality of the boy. Having been to Russia, and also you could have even joined some of the top teams in Europe even back then, I do think that before this COVID-19 started, he could have also easily made a move to one of the Gauteng teams. It was not just Paris, which was there. There was also mention of SuperSport United as well. And looking at his age is really not bad at all. He can still give you, and also for me, he's also even a candidate for the Bafana position, especially after the way he came back and revive himself at Maritzburg United. And Hapoel Tel Aviv is one of the top teams in the Israeli league. The teams there play in the Champions League, play in the Europa League, and I think going by the rate of what we see with some of our guys, there was a time where I was really opposed to this thing of our players going to play in countries like Finland, Sweden sometimes, Ukraine, this Estonia. But, when I look at the situation, I just learned this week that someone like Ayanda Kolnobe, the former under-20 international, I mean, after his exploits, and I think he's in the 3rd division in Finland, he's now been wanted by teams in Ireland, So what's next? You know what I mean? So it tells you that going to play in Israel could be another stepping stone for him to expose himself to some of the bigger leagues in Europe again. But I also think that due to the issues, because you see, when Siyanda moved from Chiefs, at Chiefs he was reported to be in a 5.3 million deal. I think he was reported to be in a 5.3 million deal at Chiefs. So now he took a huge salary cut to leave Kaizer Chiefs.
Right.
A huge salary cut to leave Kaizer Chiefs. So it tells you even the band of the package where he was and the next step where he's going to take. I learned. I learned that one of the players who was playing in Russia, I think it was some kind of player. I learned recently that this player, I think, was over 200K a month in terms of rent, and he was playing not in Russia, in Israel. So, and this was just a young player. So you can imagine a player of Siyanda Khulu's stature with that good CV that he's got, how much is he going to fetch in Israel? But I think all in all, it's a good move.
I mean, Jonty, on that note where, he's kind of pitched himself now to take on this adventure, it's always been said that those obscure leagues, in inverted commas, in Europe are a good way to kind of test your mettle. And I mean, they're getting now a fully formed player who's had to, grind, work at Maritzburg. He's got his opportunity. He's smarter. He's more matured now. And so, like Stavich says, it's a good time for him to maybe just cash in on all that experience.
Yeah, why not? I mean, your football career is short if as Valida mentioned, the money's good and it's not a bad league in Israel. They do play in Europe in the Europa League and the Champions League. And Hapoel Tel Aviv are one of the better sides there. By my understanding, we've had a decent history of South African players going there. I think Tera Fantani went there and scored a few goals. To Israel, and Bevan Fransman played there and had some success playing there. So we've got quite a nice record of South African players going over there. And I think for him,
was in Israel as well.
Yeah, Masilela, also went there. And played in La Liga. So you never know. He could step into another league from there. So it certainly offers that opportunity. I mean, there are players who have gone from Israel to bigger leagues in Europe, and not just South African players. I mean, players from all over. So it does represent an opportunity for him. And I think with Pirates, it would have been nice, obviously, for him to go to Pirates if he could have had, been a success there. But Pirates, they've almost certainly got the Bafana captain coming to play for them. So maybe they felt, another defender was a bit much. Of Kulu's salary and quality, they felt maybe they didn't need him, but also it's probable that he earns more money in Israel than he would get at Pirates. Certainly with the economy and the rand and against European currency, even in Israel, I think he'll probably be earning more money there. So it's a good move for him. And he's been in Europe before, so he knows what it's like to go to another country, and so he shouldn't have homesickness or anything like that, because especially if he's been in Russia, where it's not the easiest, especially for a black South African or a black African player to go. I know there was some history of racial abuse that he suffered there. So he's taken some hard knocks, and I think he'll be fine. I think it's a good move for him.
Yeah, no, let's see how it pans out. We do wish him all the best with that one. Definitely one of the best defenders of his generation. And so we'll see what he does with this new opportunity. Okay, gents, well, another thing that's come up is the drawing of the fixtures and the stadium allotment. COVID just brings so many unique and different things. Teams, obviously, from Gauteng aren't allowed to be based at their home stadium. So you're finding situations now, Mazet, where Kaizer Chiefs now are based at Orlando Stadium. It's, I guess the eccentricities of South African football and, of course, induced by COVID.
Yeah, well, as they say, it is what it is. You've got to it's the hand that you've been dealt. Obviously, next season, I can't imagine there would be this bio bubble. I can't imagine a bio bubble for 8 months. I think the players would boycott any of those discussions. Being stuck in a hotel for 8 months to play a full season.
Must also boycott the salary then.
Now it's tricky, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. There's that, but I don't think it's fair. It wouldn't be fair to have players sit in a hotel for 8 months, away from their families and whatever, just waking up, going to training, and coming back, eat, sleep, train, play football. It can't be. But anyway, just talking about the venues. Look, I suppose for the coastal teams, maybe a big issue, because we know often when they come to Gauteng, they struggle. But for the rest of the teams, not so much. It would be interesting to see them. Look, I was gonna say it would be interesting to see them play in winter, but usually the season kicks off around about this time anyway, so they would have probably been used to it. If we had gone on into late May, June and July, then it would have been different when we had those cold fronts and whatever. But I think the worst of the winter, so to speak, is over. We're going to have 6 p.m. kickoffs. It's still a bit nippy around that time. So we'll see how all the teams adjust, but more especially the coastal teams. It'll be interesting to see how this affects Ajax Cape Town, who are trying to fight for promotion. Now, all of a sudden, their home advantage has been taken away from them, so to speak. Whereas you could argue the Gauteng teams, maybe not so much. And some of the pitches are in mint condition. I remember when Orlando Pirates launched their jersey last year around this time at Orlando Stadium. We went there for a kickabout. That pitch was in immaculate condition, and it was July. So you would hope that most of the pitches, maybe they have some kind of, they have a groundsman that's sharp like that. But I doubt it. You're gonna see some cabbage patches. That's for sure. You're gonna hear.
Have some faith, Mazola. Have some faith.
You're gonna.
I did see having a minor whinge there on social media, but it could be interpreted as a minor whinge.
Yeah.
With the
I'm telling you now.
Somebody from some I think it was a Sundowns fan basically was complaining that obviously the Joburg-based sides are still in Joburg. So Pirates are at Ellis Park, Chiefs are at Orlando Stadium. It's basically saying the Tshwane sides have had to move around, and it's not necessarily fair. So actually retweeted the one comment. So I think he's kind of if the Dobsonville pitch isn't so good, you could hear some. That's what I'm saying. And we are definitely going to see some cabbage patches. I can guarantee you that much.
Yeah, but I think with Sundowns, as much as yes, they've been drawn to have Dobsy as their home ground, but they've got their 3 away fixtures are actually at their home venues. They've got 2 games at Loftus. And they've got a game at Lucas Moripe as well. So, still the football gods have smiled on them,
Right.
But I was talking to one coach yesterday, and it was very interesting because I was saying, Dobsy, the pitch, the stadium. In fact, it's also, the width of the pitch as well. But look, it's always going to be a difficult one when there's a draw involved. I know that even with FIFA and even with CAF, when it comes to tournament hotels, when it comes to the training grounds, it's an issue where, and also even possibly, sometimes I think with CAF, you have a situation where even when it comes to the draw, sometimes, So I think when this issue of the draw is done, you always have those who are going to complain, and but the draw is the best way to do it.
For sure.
Because otherwise, we'll want the best hotels,
of course.
And maybe even the proximity as well to maybe the airport and all those things, So,
with that said, then, what do you make of Coach Pizzo's tweet then? The one where he was like, I took 45 minutes to analyze the official PSL draw of the remaining fixtures, the luck of the draw. You've mentioned the luck of the draw. What do you think he was meaning by that statement then, in the same spirit?
Yeah, well, I think that, with the draw there, I mean, you look at Pirates. Pirates, they got their former home venue. Ellis Park, and they are sharing with Arrows.
Oh, all right. Oh my goodness, the conspiracy theory. This is how they begin.
Yeah. So, and this is what was dominating the football scene yesterday. Not necessarily on the social media space, but this is what football people are talking about yesterday. But it's the draw, and we saw it there yesterday. And in fact, I was saying, okay, maybe are we talking about? We've always heard about at CAF the issue of the warm balls and the cold balls, So did we have those yesterday? But look, and then having Kaizer Chiefs getting Orlando Stadium. And then they go and tweet. They don't do the latest picture of Orlando Stadium. You know, I thought that was hilarious. But look, it's the draw.
Yeah,
you know,
it's the draw.
And I think one thing about this draw is that, hey, but how did Sundowns get Dobsonville out of all the good pitches? I mean, there's a good pitch at Tuck Stadium. There's a good pitch at Bidvest Stadium. You know, at Orlando, at FNB, they just get Dobson.
Let's see. Let's see. We're still a days away.
But look, even there, it's the draw. You know, it's the draw. But I still maintain, like I was saying earlier, that in international competitions, this is what they do to make sure that they share this. And I think it was a good decision that Gauteng-based teams shouldn't use their home venues.
For sure.
At least now, with the exception of Pirates, because Rand Stadium is going to be used for Glad Africa Championship. So Gauteng teams will be using their original training venues. And then the teams from outside the province, they will be using those allocated training venues. So I understand where Coach Peter is coming from, especially with the brand of football that they play. I don't think it's going to be best suited for Dobsonville. I don't think. And I'm not sure the level of maintenance that has been going on at these venues during the lockdown. Maybe until the Gauteng government committed to the PSL, which I think was early last month, about setting up a BSE here and using the venues. I'm not sure before then how was the maintenance, because as you know, Dobsy was only used by Swallows, and also it was used for some MTC matches by Kaizer Chiefs as well. Dobsy doesn't
also have to play some games there during the unrest at their home stadium.
Yeah.
A couple of games out
yes, recently, and some CAF Confed matches and some PSL matches as well. So but look, Coach Jingles, as I had said, he has 2 matches at Loftus.
I was about to say, his away home games count.
Yes, and for me, he's got a game. It would have been one of the toughest away matches that he was going to play away at Herigwala, and is now playing at his home venue at Lucas Moripe against Maritzburg United.
Right.
So look,
all swings and roundabouts, as they say. Mazola, I'm a bit upset though. Not upset, but I would have liked this fixture to have kind of been later, but I get it. We're resuming kind of where we left off. So, if we had to go back to Pirates and Sundowns, that would have been a cracking encounter with that momentum. Now that it's stopped and we're starting again, and it's the first game, you kind of feel like it's not going to be the showpiece that it should be, because, an hour in, the players are going to be sucking air. It's the first game back, you're getting the groove back. And so it's a bit of a pity, but it is what it is, the luck of the draw.
Yeah. Yeah, look, you're quite right, Kamza, because pre-lockdown, obviously, those teams were firing, especially Orlando Pirates. It was one of the much anticipated matches at Loftus. I think it had already sold about 20,000 odd tickets in the build up to that match. I think it was a midweek game. Look, it's at Dobsonville Stadium now. We don't know what to expect with that Dobsonville pitch. But from what we're hearing, it's quite possibly a cabbage patch, but we'll have to wait and see. But having said that, I think with the return of football elsewhere around the world, we saw that the first couple of games, players were gasping for air. The legs were a bit tired, and we're gonna see a lot of that, especially in the first week, the first round of matches, from starting with the Nedbank Cup semis, up until the first weekend of or the second weekend rather of the return to football. We're gonna see some heavy legs, but I think after that it will begin. It will be like what you see in the early days of the season, because essentially they've had as long as they would have had for pre-season. And then games start. It will be like the MTN 8, the first round of matches in the ABSA Premiership. You're probably going to see that. But also, what probably would make it a little bit different is that the stakes are very high, especially for, the two or three teams at the top, and the 3 or 4 teams that are at the bottom. Now you usually you begin with that cushion that, look, even if I lose, you don't win the league by losing by winning your first game. You don't lose the league either by losing your first game. You don't get relegated after one game. But this time around, stakes are high. You lose this first game, chances of you getting relegated become real. You win the first game, chances of you winning the championship start to look up. So already from the get-go, I think you kind of see the energy levels from that perspective. But as far as fitness, I think it will be the usual, where after maybe 60 minutes, which is why obviously FIFA have said 5 substitutions. So if you've got the squad depth, you will be able to survive. But if you've had COVID cases, and now you're having to look to MDC players or players that are not necessarily regulars, it's gonna be a bit of an issue. But let's see. It's gonna be interesting. Will Chiefs hold on and win the title? Will Sundowns overtake them, or could both Chiefs and Sundowns throw it away, and we could see a surprise surge from Orlando Pirates playing in their all too familiar grounds there at Ellis Park? We don't know. The Glad Africa Championship is also interesting with Ajax and Swallows in the race, and Utongati as well. So let's see.
For sure. But Jotsi, I guess. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm looking at these fixtures, and as Mazola is talking about them, I mean, just in the opening week, in the space of 8 days, when you also factor in the Nedbank Cup semis, Sundowns have got 4 fixtures in 8 days. 4 fixtures in 8 days. They play on Saturday, and then they play on Sunday, I think. In fact, no. They play on Saturday, they play on Tuesday, they play on Friday, then they play on Monday.
But I mean, to that point, and that's basically where I was going.
But now, okay.
I was going to say though that at least Sundowns will have had some.
That's my point. Yeah, they're going to have that one game against Wits, and that's going to set them up.
So it should give them a slight advantage, as it should give Wits a slight advantage when they play Kaizer Chiefs the following day. Obviously, especially whoever wins, because their confidence will be up, having won such a big game. Baroka and Celtic in the other semi should also have some impetus as well, and at least they'll get used to sort of the environment behind closed doors and the 5 subs, and see how that all works out for them. I like some of the kind of funny stories from the stadium selection, like obviously Chiefs playing at Orlando. The one I saw yesterday, someone pointed out that was brilliant, I thought, was that TTM are playing at Sturrock Park, which is Bidvest Wits' training facility. So, the club they've bought, they're now playing the rest of the season on their training ground. I thought that's quite nice. But obviously it's going to be interesting to see how these teams cope. As Valile mentioned, Sundowns with so many games. Sundowns and Wits have the most to play. I mean, potentially I think it's 11 potentially. I think 9 league games. And we had a Nedbank semi-final, and whoever gets to the final will have to play in that. So that's a lot of games to play in a month, effectively, to finish off the season. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes, and hopefully it'll all go well. And hopefully it's an even contest in the sense that one of the pitches isn't so bad that it's just unplayable. I hope the Dobsonville is okay. I was speaking to Owen DeGarmo, who's Highlands Park, of the other team at Dobsonville today, and he said he thinks it'll be fine, but he said they played some friendlies there and it's okay. He didn't have anything bad to say about the pitch, but if it hasn't been looked after, obviously, in this time off, we'll have to wait and see. It'll be that's another whole other thing, because obviously you're going to have some really nice smooth surfaces and some not so smooth surfaces. But I think it'll be very exciting, and everybody, I think, is just the main sentiment. I think is just relief that we're going to actually get some football. We're going to actually get this thing done, because for a while it didn't. It looked very, very ropey.
No, for sure. And I guess the one team that we have to kind of speak about, because they're at the top of the table as it stands, Mazola, is Kaizer Chiefs, who, Duman and Khune coming out and saying they kind of have to pick up where they left off. What does that mean for him? What do you see his role being in this last run up of fixtures? Because obviously everyone's kind of expecting Daniel Akpeyi to remain the main man. How does it do contribute? Does he just be a positive figure in the space to help them kind of mentally prepare themselves to get through this last run of games? How do you see him factoring in?
Well, look, it depends what he means about picking up from where they left off. Where they left off is losing to AmaZulu, the last game before lockdown.
I think it means being at top of the table.
Yeah, so they shouldn't pick up from where they literally left off. But yeah, well, jokes aside, I think obviously to try and keep the momentum. Obviously, they've lost an influential player in George Maluleka, who would have added some steel in midfield in the run-in for the title chase. But speaking of E2 specifically, I think obviously it depends. I think with fitness, I think if Coach Ernst Middendorp had been adamant that it's a headache for him. It's a serious headache for him to consider whether to drop Akpeyi, who'd been so solid for Chiefs throughout the season, and bring E2 in. Obviously, we know that he had brought E2 in for the cup, which they lost, and there were a lot of people making a lot of fun about E2, diving the wrong way and so high as if he's catching an aeroplane when the ball is just being rolled into the net by Peter Shalulile in that Nedbank Cup game. So look, obviously I don't think E2 has to prove himself. I think we all know what he can offer. It's a tough one. I would hate to be in Coach Ernst's shoes where he has to pick, especially when we've not really seen what has been happening behind the scenes. We don't know the level of fitness. We don't know if E2 has picked up weight, if Daniel has picked up weight. We don't know if either of them, were the COVID cases at the club, so it would also depend. What if one of them was the COVID cases at the club and had been eased back into playing? So that's a factor. And right now we're not even talking just about fitness and form and whatever. We're talking about a virus now that's been harmful to the rest of the world and athletes as well. It doesn't matter how healthy or how fit you are, so we have to take that into consideration. And we know that the club has confirmed to have had cases in the past, so we have to bring that into the picture. But yeah, look, gun to my head, you possibly you kind of take your chance with E2 and think E2 should see you throughout, but based on form pre-COVID, you think Daniel should rightfully hold on to the number 1 jersey. It's a tough one because E2 is a top goalkeeper. We know that for sure. Mzansi is number 1, but Daniel has stepped up in the time that E2 was injured and he took over the number 1 jersey. So yeah, tough choice, but good headache.
For sure. And speaking to that good headache, I mean, maybe Velile, this whole COVID thing might present a unique situation where, because the run-in of games is so frequent, we could see a situation where Ernst has 2 top quality keepers to use in that space of a month and 8 games to play.
Yeah, well, look, at this time, you see the good thing about this break is a situation where even the injured players, at least they've recovered. If you look at someone like Willard Katsande, even though maybe the rehabilitation process has not been what you would expect, because they couldn't train until earlier this month. But at a club where you have like Kaizer Chiefs and some clubs like Sundowns where you have some top conditioning coaches, they'll be back. So, but with Khune, I think Khune in the last 2 or 3 seasons, he struggled to play 10 consecutive matches for Chiefs, as he's also been hampered by injuries as well. So whatever happens during this period, I'm sure, as the captain of the team, and especially with Chiefs having not won a league title in 5 years, so this is something that he would welcome, to be on the pitch. But judging by the comments of Coach Middendorp throughout the season, I don't see it happening. I think Daniel Akpeyi will continue to play and wear that number 1 jersey at Chiefs, because the coach believes that he's done a good job this season, and he will want to continue with him. But it's going to be very interesting for me, Kamza, because yes, I know that clubs are entitled to the 5 substitutes. And secondly, I know that clubs, they will have to rotate players, Kamza, during this period. Even besides just the issue of the 5 substitutes, they will have to rotate players. Sure. Look at a team like Sundowns having 4 matches. 4 matches in 8 days. Sure. So the depth of the squads is going to be tested during this period, especially for those teams that are going for the title race, and also the teams that are trying to avoid relegation. This is where they need everyone. They cannot afford injuries, but injuries, I think they are going to be there. And I think also in terms of having the best conditioning coaches, this is the time, and this is the time where maybe teams which in their technical teams, they are not really prepared for what we're talking about. It's going to show, and I hope that it's not teams which are in the relegation zone, even though most of the time teams that are in the relegation zone are teams which are not well resourced.
Yeah.
So I think yes. So and I think in this case that is going to be the situation, because this completion of fixtures the PSL is coming with, it's also not more about what is happening in the field of play. It's also going to be a mental situation as well. Mental strength is going to be very key during this period. There are no crowds. Some teams are playing away from home, playing a home fixture. So yeah, I think there's just going to be a lot. So I'm really looking forward to see the quality of play. How is it going to be during this period? I remember watching some of the European leagues, especially when the Bundesliga was the first to come back. The first round of fixtures, when they came back, you could see that they had been out for a very long time. But from the second round of fixtures, they picked up in terms of quality. So I know that maybe in terms of quality, it could also be boosted because we're completing the fixtures and we're going for the title race. And there's the top 8. There's also teams trying to avoid relegation. But the fact that PSL, even how they've fixtured their games, they are the only league that we'll be looking forward to now. The quality of play better be good.
Of course, all the eyes are going to be on these teams, and these teams are also going to be looking in and amongst their own squads to see their wants and their needs.
He said it better be good.
Oh, well, he's got a point. All eyes will be on our league. So let's see what gets delivered. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of teams are going to actually be able to see what they need for next season. I think a lot of players might also be playing for their livelihoods, because considering COVID and the frugality that's going to be required from teams going into the new season, I think there's going to be much food for thought for us as supporters, but of course, the higher-ups and technical teams at some of these clubs for their planning for the next campaign. So, yeah, I think we're looking ahead to what should be a cracking August, and I cannot wait. Gents, thank you so much for your time and for your impressions tonight. Before we leave, though, I just want to extend our heartfelt condolences to the Sindani family on behalf of, of course, front runner Mandla Mkijimi Sindani passing away this week. A super fan, synonymous with Orlando Pirates, unmistakable on the sidelines in his, white face, I guess we can call it. And yeah, our heartfelt condolences to his friends, his family, the OPC family, and of course, all supporters who pretty much liven up our stadiums with their commitment to our game. So on that note, gents, thank you so much. We'll catch up in the new week as we build up to the resumption of the local league. And to you as well who's tuned in, thank you so much for keeping up with us with the Front Runner Football podcast. For myself, Gamza, Bailey, John T, and Mazola. Until we meet again in the new week. Cheers, everybody. Good night.